What's up, Pod Pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you are checking out Podcasting Business School. This is the show where I teach podcasters how to love their show like a hobby, but build it like a business. If you're looking for some podcasting tips on how to grow your show, how to monetize your show, how to build a dang business around your show, or to use your show to build a business, you're in the right place. I have got one of my newest Pod Pals on here with me, David Chen. This dude has a brand that's blowing up. Like, this dude is all over the place. I don't even know all the nooks and crannies that he's involved in. I just know that he's tired and he's been traveling around the world. So, David, I'm so glad that you took a minute before you go take a nap to chat with us and talk business a little bit. I really want to talk brand building. I want to learn more about your brand, how your podcast is fitting into all of this. So, welcome to the show, man.
Man, thanks for having me, man. You know, you hit it on the money. Absolutely greatest in learning from you and podcasts. And I'll tell everyone right now, you know, I'm trying to take your services on and learn a little bit more. And that wasn't even paid. I'll tell you guys, everyone, straight up. But it's amazing to be on this show. I'm excited, and I'm excited to kind of bring value and add value to everyone that's around us.
All right, man. So, like I said, you got your hands on a lot of stuff. So the first question is, like, when somebody asks you, David, like, what do you do for a living? How in the world do you describe it is, like, what exactly you do?
I usually respond with, what do you need to get done, as a funny comment. And people think I'm trying to be sarcastic, but I'm not. And then I have to explain myself. I've been very fortunate to do a combination of things, whether they've been successful or unsuccessful. What people don't realize is it's still tools in your belt, and there's still knowledge from this belt that you can still use and add value to people, even if you didn't do it the right way, because you can help them do it the right way. So I always respond with that. And then just kind of depending on who I'm talking to and what industry we're in, then I'll talk about that specifically. I used to think that providing an overall encompassing view of who I was going to help. And I just realized it got really complicated really quickly. And certain people, you know, there's certain people that want to help you. There's certain people who get a really weird feeling and they don't want to help once they hear all the things you do. So I've been very limited in what I have to do, but I really do say is, what do you need to get done so I can try to help them out?
Where's your business focused right now? Like, where's most of your business energy going? I know, like, I'm super interested in, like, esports and all of these things that you've got cooking. So, like, but would you say most of your business energy is going right now?
So it's really in the, what I call the emerging tech space or the emerging lifestyle space. I have been doing that since I started at Deloitte when I was in, you know, as the youngest managing partner in the world. I did that in 05 to 15. I focused on the China group and the Korean group into the Americas, and really kind of built a big network of business people to set up their whole businesses, whether it was auditing, taxes, mergers. But I did a lot of consulting for these big companies. We're talking about billion-dollar companies. I was fortunate enough, you see up there, to have a couple billion-dollar deals, and that was the Standard of Excellence Award that I won at Deloitte. And that was kind of cool. But, you know, what I really, really work on now is I'm heavy into esports. I love esports. That is my biggest thing. There is no other way in the history of this world, and this comes from an excellent managing partner, that you can reach as many people as quickly as you can in esports. And I have seen this all around. I'm doing that. I have real estate, obviously. We have Downtown Spaces, which is one of the largest co-working spaces here in Texas. It's based out of El Paso. We're doing a couple more of that. You know, and I just joined a company on a board called Nobility Token. Check them out. They've been doing some great stuff. Their token's got up 21% in the last 2 days. I am not a financial advisor. I'm just telling you what it is. And, you know, I've been very fortunate. I've been very blessed with some good friends like yourself. You know, Chip Baker asked me to be on his book. I was on the #1 book for him. And then, of course, I have the #1 podcast from New York Weekly. And so it's this combination of things, but really media, lifestyle branding, which really all involves esports, is kind of what I'm really looking at this point.
Tell me a little bit more about esports, because I feel like, especially when I look at through a podcasting lens, like, you have knowledge and connections and experience in two of the hottest trending topics that I feel isn't well served in podcasting. That's crypto and that is esports.
100%.
Like, if I can ever talk you into launching 1 or 2 more podcasts outside of Pandanomics, not that you need more things to do, but I'm like,
I'll do it with you. Let's do it.
The esports podcast, man. It's like esports center. Like, that's what I would call it.
Yeah.
And
I appreciate that.
So, like, what exactly, like, what has really got you hyped about esports right now? Or maybe for somebody that's not totally familiar with it, like, could you explain it a little bit?
I think the first thing is it's an age group thing. If you're our age, in the 30s and 40s, don't tell anyone on the show that we're that age, but if you were, we were always taught that gaming was cool, and we were the first round of people that probably set up Halo and Madden tournaments and NBA Jam tournaments against our friends, because that was our way of talking crap to each other, right? That was why we grew up. That was our fundamental value of being able to relate to a friend and going from there. When I rejoined the esports world in 2017, I realized something that I didn't realize. These phenomenous genius kids took it into a level that you could view and watch. Now, for most of you who are watching this right now, they're like, what the hell are you talking about? Go ask your kids. Well, your kids are doing this for 4 to 5 hours and playing Roblox or Minecraft or Fortnite. What you don't realize is they're talking to a bunch of other children, and they're doing a bunch of other things. They're talking about business. They're talking about lifestyle. They're talking about what's going on in their lives, but they're feeling included. That is my main purpose of being in esports. Growing up, being Asian, being young, being small at the point, and getting picked on a lot, I was already not going to be the best basketball player because of my race. I was not going to be the best football player because of my race. And guys, I'm 6'5", 280, which is absurd for me to already hear that just based on my race. Or I would already do this. Esports takes that out. They don't care if you're a man or a woman. They don't care if you're handicapped. They don't care if you have one hand. You can still play esports and you can still game for the world, but esports is the pro level of it, which now means that people are looking at, and I'll give you some very scary statistics. I'll give you a value statistic. When I joined FaZe Clan as an investor in 2017, I came in at a $120 million valuation. Forbes last year put us at a $305 million valuation during the pandemic. Name another industry, another business that has that. But I'll show you some more mind-blowing facts. The average user from 18 to 35 that understands sports, when you put the Lakers and the Yankees and you put in the Patriots and the FaZe Clan outdoes these guys by name recognition for the younger people. So if you're a business person, how are you attracting this new audience? In the 80s and the 90s, Sears knew to go to the softer side of Sears. But you also saw when people didn't make changes, how quickly they started falling off. 85% of the Fortune 500 companies in the 80s no longer exist because they didn't want to get into technology. So I'm pre-warning everyone now from an exploit standpoint, that's the biggest thing. But here's the craziest number. They had 10 billion subscribers, Adam, and 10 billion viewers and 350 million subscribers. And the crazy part about the story was I put them in a Super Bowl commercial that had Platinum's Peanuts and Alex Rodriguez and Charlie Sheen. And our guys were there for 1 second. And there was more engagement for that 1 second than when A-Rod and Charlie Sheen did it combined.
Wow.
And the sales went up. And that's when I knew, when you talk about branding in the social media, in this culture, in this podcast, and the ability to reach millions, if not billions of people, esports is the way. 67% of the world does gaming. And the last statistic I'll tell everyone is, right before the pandemic, gaming was estimated by Newzoo in 2023 to be a $3 billion industry. It is now estimated after the pandemic to be a $200 billion industry. Where in the world right now, when the S&P 500 last week goes down on all 11, is there an industry that's going up the way it's going? So that's what it is. It's the ability to reach people, and you take your favorite sport and you take out the word esport and you put in the word NBA, NFL, MLB. You watch football, baseball, basketball, you're not playing it. Why do you watch them for hours?
Right.
Same thing.
Same
so
thing.
That's what it is. It is now a new genre of sport that everyone in the world can compete, and there's huge and massive brand opportunities that you just couldn't believe, man. It's crazy.
So you had me at NBA Jam tournaments. Like I was born in 1980, so I was in college like early 2000s, and I remember being in the dorm. John Madden football is just giant, and we would have tournaments. And one kid had, I think it was just the original PlayStation at that time.
Right.
And when it was your turn to play, no matter what time you play, and everybody is there chasing you down. Everybody throws in like $5, and like it was an epic thing. And the whole year, my senior year in college at Indiana University, I taught a class, so I got a free dorm room. So I'm in there with all these freshmen, and I'm a senior, but I probably played more John Madden football than hours that I actually went to class, and that's the truth.
The number 2 Madden player in the world is Pavon Lockett. He's part of our NACL team, the North American League that I own. He's a brand ambassador. The kid can make, if he wins Madden this year, $750,000 in one tournament.
Insane.
It is, while it comes down to viewership, what is the viewership and how can you hit brands? And that is what esports is doing to a demographic that is being heavily underserved by our traditional sports and traditional businesses. Someone's going to catch it. Hopefully it's me and you, Adam, whoever else listens to your amazing show. But that is the value of esports. It's crazy.
So, like, I was introduced to esports through the TV show Ballers. I'm a big fan of that.
My favorite.
And like, then I see you popping up on Instagram, and you're like with one of the dudes from the show, like hanging out. And like, so how do you know that guy? Is that somebody that was like just one of your esports connections?
It's a crazy story how that works. And I kind of want to go over the kind of the esports and how it led to it. So I've been in esports this is now my third year coming into it. I first invested in FaZe, and I did Super Bowl commercial. And then I started North American Collegiate League, which is a nonprofit collegiate league in 220 universities in 30 countries. We have a second league called the Latin America League, which we're primarily focused on Latin America. And we have an open league where celebrities and partners play. So we do 15, 16 titles. We've done 160 tournaments. Our partners include NASCAR. Our partners include the English Premier League Wolverhampton Wanderers. Our partners include the San Antonio Spurs. Our partners included Mark Cuban and doing clothing with him. I mean, I can go on. And we've taken kids pro. Kids that can make 5, 6, 7, 8 figures playing video games pro through our nonprofit league. So we're always looking to work with everyone and going from there. If you go on our site, man, we have the most craziest guys you'll ever think about. Rick Barry, Brian Urlacher, Aaron Jones, freaking Austin Eckler, right? Donovan Carter from Baller, Paige Hathaway, 7-time Mr. Olympia, Flex Lewis. They all game. How else will I be able to bring all these people with their 400, 500 million combined followers to work with us and become investors and partners into our company, our management company that manages a bunch of esports stuff, if they didn't recognize the brand awareness that was there? So one day I'm sitting here and I'm just hanging out, and I get a call from a friend of mine, Marcus King, and he's the CEO of Dash Radio Comedy. And he goes, "Hey, I have a gig for you, and it's a gaming gig where they want to host an ESPYs party." Cool. They wanted me to be the host of the ESPYs party with Matt Barnes. Nice. So this is a true story. We show up in LA. This is dude. I am telling you, like, I when I tell these stories, I don't even believe them because they're just so insane. Like, little boy me is like, "Yo, bro, this is your Jerry Maguire moment. This is your Ballers moment. But this is your impact moment to help people," and that's why it makes me so happy, right? And you can tell quickly my energy shifts when I talk about this. It's just insane to me. And so I show up, and I'm like going to host this party, and it's with Matt Barnes, and it's at Porsche in Los Angeles, at their downtown dealership, where they're giving away a free custom painted a Macan to the Children's Foundation. This was to Matt because his mother had passed away from cancer. So we're helping him out. And so I'm the host, and London Brown, who plays Reggie, who also is on Power, was at my show, was at my event. Paul Pierce was there. I mean, you name some big stars. It was crazy, and it's mine. And then we're sitting there, and Dash Radio is doing a live commentary, and talking about what's going on in our show. And I saw these people. Well, I end up talking to London. London and I become friends. And I just hit up Donovan. I said, "Donovan, I know you're a gamer. This is who I am. This is what I do." And like that, we talked and we connected. We've become very, very good friends. He just did an event with HyperX that we just had him do, which was helping the American Red Cross. He just casted that event. And we become really, really good friends. So we show up on Monday Night Football as we were invited by Oracle to a suite, which is kind of crazy for me to tell you that. And we meet Austin Eckler on the field, ironically, because he's my friend, and Trent, who's from the Raiders, who's my friend. And then Donovan's there. And it was just saying, but it's these humbling moments. Like, if you come out of it the way I do, which is like, even though you might have done it a couple of times and you still can't believe it, I feel like that's the right way to do things. But that's how I became friends with Donovan, and we just vibe and we game, we become friends. And the Baller thing was even interesting because I sat at Mark Wahlberg's house that year when they were going to put in FaZe, but they decided to put in Liquid instead. And we were talking at Mark Wahlberg's house. I can't even make this up. I got photos for this. And talking about getting him in the FaZe. So I already knew that was going to happen in season 5. And then 2 years later, become partners with Donovan. Just was meant to be, man. It's crazy.
That's amazing.
It's an insane story to say, man. I can't even believe it.
Well, like, we've talked a few times. Mm-hmm. I've dove deep on your show, Pandanomics, and like, you pull all these big names onto your show, and you just talk about, like, these are my homies, these are my friends, these are my people. Like, one of a question I get a lot in the podcasting space is a lot of podcasters are like, I'm interviewing some bigger people that I would love to like stoke up friendships with, but it's like, they feel weird about it because they're fans at the same time. And so do you remember like when you went from like normal David Chen to hang out with famous people, David Chen, and how do you not be the weird fanboy person, and just have like develop a real relationship with these types of people? Because you seem to be amazing at this.
I have been very lucky. I feel like if you are just being you, like my role is this. There are no photos the first time you meet any celebrity.
Yeah.
That's it. Unless it's a pass through. Like the only time I made that mistake wrong was Al Pacino. And that's a whole different story. Like I regret not asking Al Pacino for the photo. But you treat them as themselves. We have a rule where the people we hang out with cannot act. They can't be jerks. That's our rule. That's my number one rule in business, but that's also my rule in life. They can't be jerks, so they have to be out. And so that makes it much more easier. But for us, it's just being you and adding value to them and then developing a friendship, right? Because you got to think about it. They get hit up by 1 billion people all the time. You have 30 seconds. You have one message. You have the first 3 lines. I tell people your objective is to hit something for them to hit you back. So you have to provide value. And the thing I hate those people hit me up is, hey, can you help me with what? Okay, well, have you done this? No, I have a question. And that's okay. You can ask questions all day long, but you're not being self-reliant and you're not being add value. So I already told them that's going to be a problem. And with Donovan, we're just friends and we add value. He didn't ask me to cast them into the HyperX. I wanted to cast them. That's value, right? Because I understand that that's what he needs. The deep dive into real friendships, they're all surface level relationships. And I'll tell you, when you get deep dive into a relationship and you understand what the person wants and they do the same for you, then it makes it much more easier. And it's really, really hard, but I deep dive into things that matter. I know that he is trying to get another acting gig. I know that he is working very, very hard. I know that he is keeping himself conditioning and trying to hone his skills. I also know that it's been 1.5 years since he's been on Ballers. So me as a friend, I am going to try to help him out. And he wants to give me back 10%. He does. I don't ask for the 10%. And if I don't get the 10%, at the bare minimum, I will know that's the person he is. But at least I did something right. Where most people, I think, if I don't get something out of it, I'm not going to help him out. Or like it's me, like, dude, that's your friend. Help him out. It doesn't matter if it's Donovan Carter or Bob or Zach, who's your best friend and he's your insurance agent. Take care of your own.
Yeah.
And we don't do that because we develop a hater ass mentality. Yeah. So Donovan, I don't. And then when he sees it, he gives it back to me. So I'm like, D, can you put this up? And he's like, yeah, I'll put it up. Just be as authentic and treat them like human beings. Everybody needs value. Everybody needs help. Gary needs help to get in Asia. I need help. You need help. We all need help. We all need to add value. Add value to the person the best you can, and it makes a difference. And that's how me and Donovan became pretty good friends.
That's awesome. And like, if you guys go and listen to Pandanomics, you'll see real conversations with these people. Like your interview with Brian Urlacher was awesome.
Thank you.
Because it's not just like a lot of podcasters interview famous people and you can tell that that's the relationship. When you're talking to Urlacher, you can tell your friends.
Yeah.
And you got him to talk about stuff that, like, I know he's not a real super public guy, but you got him to talk about like his high school football and his son and like his post-retirement strategies and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is stuff I've never, ever heard this guy ever talk about before.
Thank you.
So from like a podcasting perspective, like you're somebody, obviously your show is, it's got great accolades and like it's starting to fit into your brand, but like where do you see your show fitting into this Death Star that you've built of everything that you've got going on? Or what are you excited about in the podcasting space? Because you're a guy that spots trends.
I like anyone out there who wants to do a podcast or is not encouraged what they're at and going from there, I have felt the same way too. Adam knows that. I'm a very honest, transparent person, sometimes a little too transparent with things, but I will tell you that is who I really am. And I think a lot of people appreciate the genuineness of things and can tell. Well, we're in a world now where it's like, do this, buy. Everything's a course. Where Gary did a little bit differently. Gary's like, I'll provide real value, but I'm not selling you any courses. So David Chen is kind of the same way where I want to, but we know that it's a rabbit hole that to me is very dangerous, right? That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But I will tell you in the podcast world is it's allowed me to tell my story. And I didn't think my story was important. But for those that don't know is, dude, I came to this country homeless. I ate bugs. I didn't have my first home until I was 12 or 15. I was discriminated against. My parents couldn't even help me past third grade because they couldn't understand it. And we were so poor that we had to eat bologna. Couldn't even afford bologna sandwiches. On a good day, it was an egg sandwich. And that stinks. And that's all I had. And we were really, really, really economically disadvantaged. And that instilled a lot of hard work into me to where I'm at now, right? But I tell those stories to give people hope. I didn't finish school, but I was next to a managing partner. I didn't finish school, but I teach at the top universities. I didn't finish school because my parents had a heart attack. It sucked. It's my senior year. But that's the way life works. You got to make the best of it. And it sucks. It isn't the way we planned it out. None of us, or very few of us, at 18 when we graduated high school, did what we thought we were going to do in college and the rest of our lives. None of it worked that way. It is our job to let people know that it's okay. Don't be so hard on yourself. It happens, right? It happens everywhere. You have to be able to go from there. So my podcast is, I just want to be as honest as I can with people and share positive stories. Dude, there's enough negative stuff about people out in the world. I'd rather just share the positive. And what I have found is in my podcast, there are a couple of key accolades that you, Adam, do that I do as human beings that I don't think we realize. First off, there's a humility. Brian doesn't think he's the greatest NFL player in the world, but Brian is the greatest, one of the greatest players in the world. Domi Shi, who was a Academy Award-winning director, the very first Asian woman who won Disney Pixar's Bow, who was on my thing, does not think she was that great and was surprised that she won it. There's humility. There's a sense to help. They always want to add value. I don't care if it's Aaron Jones and Austin Eckler, they'll always add value to help their friends and help people that they care about them. Number 4, they don't want anything. They don't want everything. It's not the what can you give me so I can get back. It's how can we deep dive in the relationship? And they don't quit. And they don't quit. They just don't quit. Like it just doesn't matter what it is. They don't quit. And that's whether it's Jason, the CEO of Entrepreneur Magazine or anyone else in between, they're all the same way. You have that, Adam. I have that. Brian Bogert has it. A lot of our listeners and friends have it. But we never talk about this because we don't know if it's the right track. But it is. Every millionaire and billionaire I have met that I have been fortunate enough to be a very positive part of, they all think the same way. And the guys that don't, I don't deal with them. So I don't have to deal with them. I don't want to worry about my back. I already have the world going against me. I don't need everyone else going against me. But that's what it is. So my idea is to give out as much brand and positivity as possible and let people know that look like me or people that came from my conditions, people that didn't finish school, or people that are from a small city like El Paso, Texas. Man, you can shoot a Super Bowl commercial. You can put together. You can be on Forbes 30 times. You just have to find a way to do it, and stop getting in your own way of doing it. And that's what my podcast is about: loving yourself and trying to get it going, man.
And it's awesome. It's super inspirational, and yeah, like I just love the natural conversations. You're a curious interviewer. I've talked about this several times on the show. I love listening to shows where the host is just naturally curious.
Right.
Like my friend Jeff Lopes is like that a lot too. And like it's just, there's just something different than the person that just has their list of questions. Like question 1, boom, and answer. Let's hard right pivot to question 2. Here's my list. So you go down the rabbit hole and you peel back the layers of the onion, and all of a sudden you've got these like people that aren't super accessible to people like me, and you're just like letting us in and getting that fly on the wall conversation. So
I appreciate that.
Okay, well, let's talk about that a little bit, because that's
Sure.
a skill. Like the way that you interview, you're curious and you have natural abilities, but like what kind of a game plan do you go in, or do you have notes? Do you prep? Like what is the podcast like? How are the wheels turning as the actual interviews going for you?
I think with anything that you're doing, what is your objective of this podcast today with this person? What are you trying to get out of it? We'll use Brian as an example because we've been using Brian. Do we really need to talk about how Brian made the Hall of Fame and what was his biggest play and who was the hardest hitter? Absolutely, we could talk about that. But so has ESPN and everyone else that's ever interviewed him. And that's important to know. But I want to know how Brian exited Vitamin Water at $1 billion valuation. I want to know how he became the face of Old Spice. I want to know how he invested in a company that regrew all his hair, and he actually did it.
Yeah.
And I want to know why he picked it, because there's a very, very valuable lesson that you learn from it. They tell you why. And if you're really listening and thinking, and you do critical analyzation, then you know what to do and not to do when you run into a situation of someone of that magnitude. not to be a fanboy, not to do this, not to do that, or to do this and do that. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There's not one set way, because there's plenty of celebrities that we have on our thing that I wish I was super close to. Sometimes we are, sometimes we aren't. It's just kind of the way the world works. But I will tell you, for me, it's genuinely deep diving and caring about them. And I know his kid matters. I know he's proud of Kennedy. And I know Kennedy has gotten that. But I take the time to learn it, right? And I don't sit there and this is going to sound really bad. Like, I don't necessarily pre-prep everything and have a list of questions. People, I really talk from here, and I kind of go with the flow of business. But for those of you people who say, well, that's really easy for you because you're so outgoing. Guys, I wish I thought I was 26. So this is a skill that I have developed. It's not a skill that I have had my whole entire life. So let's be very clear on that. But once you kind of know what it is, and you genuinely care about these people, it helps the conversation a lot. And that's kind of what made it work for me.
So you said you were shy until you were 26. What happened there? Like, did you?
John,
I have a similar thing. Like, I was kind of a.
Tell me about yours.
They see us, and they see these big, boisterous, large, bigger than life individuals, and they're like, it's easy for you. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I was scared of girls until I was in high school, and like, I got picked on. I'm a big guy too. I'm 6'4", but I was the nice big guy, so people would pick on me. Right. Because they can make a name for themselves.
Right. So they want to go. You know what I'm talking about all the time.
Yeah. So, yeah, man. So that, like, I started in college, I started doing things that forced me to get out of my comfort zone. And that's how I started cutting my teeth, where, I did our local Dancing with the Celebrities competition. I had to dance 3 dances in front of 600 people at a theater, and like stuff like that, stuff like that. But so that's kind of my mini story. But what did it take for you to kind of break out of that and really become this next level version of David Chen?
I'll start with what it was, like how I think, and then how I got into it. Like everyone else, what I've realized now in my 40s is, dude, nobody has to figure it out. Let me tell you right now, you have pillars of things that you can figure out, little paths. Like, you might know that I look at life as a trip. Like, I know today I'm going from El Paso to Phoenix. I'll come back. But where am I going to end in the end? I have no idea. That's life. That's how I look at my analogies. And for me, like, my parents both had a heart attack, and I spent 6 years in college. And my sister skipped a year. She's a smart kid. So we had a decision to make. Either I stay or they stay, or she stays. I'm the big bro. I dipped out. I screwed around for 6 years. That's my fault. I need to take care of my parents, so I went home. I worked for 3 years. And man, those 3 years, I couldn't work 1 day a week in college because it was too hard. I had to study. Wow. For all of you guys out there who listen to that is a load of crap. Dude, life is 20 times harder than that. 20 times harder. And when we were faced with losing our home, I had to make a decision. I could either work and try to save this business. I was working 20 hours a day, Adam, 7 days a week, to the point where an Asian mother was like, you need to stop working and take a vacation. Asian mothers don't say that. That's how hard I was working, and did it for 3 years. And then I had no choice but to talk to people. See, what happens is we hide from our weaknesses because we don't think that we can repair them and fix them. And certain things we cannot repair and fix. Like, I cannot grow taller, right? It's just not physically going to happen. I grow wider, but I cannot grow taller, right? This is the other thing people have told in their 40s. But there are things that we can really do if it matters enough to you. That's the key word. If it matters, right? We're so busy, but yet you can book a trip to Cancun for spring break and save countless amounts of money to research because it mattered. But then when you want to learn something that you don't know how to do it at work, it didn't matter to you to go Google what it was. So then you were waiting on the project, and then you don't get promoted, and it's their fault. It's not their fault. It's your fault because it didn't matter. And so I tell people are always afraid, and I get it. I'm afraid of people. I'm afraid of people's opinions. I'm a very big guys. The problem with big guys is everyone wants to punk us, and we don't want to be big. Like, we're big guys, but we're not like Shaq. Like, we don't want to be like mean and aggressive because we're trying to be nice. And I feel like big guys are always generally nicer because we're so aware of our strengths and our abilities and the way that we look that it really does scare people off. And I've understood that, and I'm sure you do too. So you try to be less confrontational. It's like kids when they first see us, they're like, right? And then afterwards, like hanging all over us. So we're like Shrek or whatever. You know what I'm talking about? So it's a comfort level thing. And it's not fun to hear people talk badly about you. And it's not fun for people around you to say you're not going to do a good job. It's not. But you owe it to yourself and everyone else, at least tell your story and go from there. And so everything in this world is sales. Everything. I don't care if you're a doctor, your bedside manner is a sell. The way you treat someone's a sell. If you're an attorney, you have to sell your services for me to know who you are. If whatever you do, if you're a teacher, you have to sell your fund to get a grant from the government to know who you are. Everything is sales. So the quicker you learn that, not a shyster, but a salesperson, shyster tries to screw you, then you'll be okay. And that's what I realized real quickly was, dude, the only way I can talk to people is if I talk to people. Who's gonna do it for me? My mom? My girlfriend? My dad? I have to do it.
Yeah.
And so it led to this one fundamental thing that I've learned later on in my life is this. Before you start, you will get criticism that you can't do it or you can do it, and you'll beat yourself up. When you start and you're starting to run, those same people around you, the negative people that hopefully will eventually get filtered out, will sit there and start telling you what you could do better, but they have no credibility. They have no credibility to do it better like the way Adam knows how to do podcasts. And this is from a guy who doesn't run podcasts. I can tell Adam knows what he's doing, right? So I'll shoot you straight up. Then they turn around, and when you finally make it, oh, man, you've changed. You're arrogant. You don't talk to me anymore. No, man, you didn't support me the whole entire time. You told me I couldn't do it. You didn't add value. If you knew there was something I was doing wrong, why didn't you care enough about me, because you care about me, to show me how to do it right? Or if you didn't know how to do it right, at least give me an ideas. That's like saying, I just got this disease, and everyone's just like, well, dude, take this instead of that. Instead of actually showing that it actually will help your body. I overheard this at a commercial. That's how ridiculous people are in our lives. And then when you finally retire, you're a has-been. So when do you win? You don't. You never win. You never win with the public. But you have to win with yourself. If you're true to yourself, you can't be shysty. You know, we've all gone down the rabbit hole trying to make a sell. You can't be not right. And it's very hard in a world where you see people who aren't playing fairly do what they're doing, but at the same time, I can sleep at night. My kids eat. My family eats. I have a good conscience. I know you do too, Adam. And that's how I do it, man. It's not easy. It's not fun. I get beaten up left and right like everyone else does. But at the end of the day, the goal is the goal, and anything away from my goal is just a distraction.
So I'm glad you brought this whole point up about kind of coming up in the ranks and then the environment around you and what people are saying and how they're interacting, because this is something I didn't expect when I launched my first show. Like, I wasn't doing it to be famous and fancy. I was doing it to impact more people. And what I didn't expect was some people that I had surrounded myself with were like, oh, he thinks he's better than us. Or like, he's all, he is all acting all fancy or all famous. And it was weird. And that's something that podcasters, if your show starts to do well and people start seeing you interviewing people that they know from TV or something like that, some of this weirdness may pop up, and you're going to, have to communicate effectively with your friends, your family members, the people that you surround yourself around. And like, what do those conversations need to look like, David? I mean, have you had those where it's like, obviously some people, I've had to cut some people out of my life. I'm like, this person just seems to just want to squeeze me tighter and pull me back down to where I was. And I'm the same me. I'm just a better version of me, and I'm helping more people. And I don't care if I'm fancy and famous and rich or whatever, but a lot of times they don't realize that. So how would you suggest a newer podcaster maybe just prepare themselves and the people that are around them for if their brand does take off? Like, how do we nurture some of these relationships, and when do we know when to cut people loose?
This is a very difficult one, because sometimes the people around you are the people that you love the most, and it hurts. As a grown-ass man, I can tell you that. As a very salesman, it hurts. My feelings get hurt. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, if you don't say that as a man, you're lying. Every man hurts. We've been taught not to hurt. Have you seen what He-Man looks like? That's what we have to look like, right? So let me just put that out there. Every person hurts. Now, whether I show it or not is a whole different ballgame, but I'm always hurting. Guys like us, stature, we hurt more. The more compassionate you are, the more you're going to be hurt, because you have compassion. But the real compassion to me is being able to forgive them for not understanding, not wanting to understand, not caring to understand, and moving on. I will not fight with you in the battle. I will hurt. If you allow me to explain my situation, I will. If you cut me off and don't, that's happened to me a couple of times, I don't need to explain my situation because I wasn't worth enough for you to talk. Because the roles were reversed, I would absolutely talk to you, see what's going on. Clarity is key. I have learned in my later age, as busy as I've gotten, if I am not extremely clear, people will muggle up the words however they want, like telephone, and literally become a major issue. So when it comes to us and what we're trying to do with people around us, I got to be honest, Adam, I just cut them out of my lives. I don't mean like I don't talk to them more. Like if it's a family member and I don't like what they're saying, I just unfollow them on the post. I don't need to read your views. I don't care about your views. Your views aren't changing my views. Your views aren't, you're not going to become the next president of the United States. Let's just be realistic here. Your views don't mean shit in the big world. And I'm sorry I said that word, they just don't. What matters is who you are and how people view you and what version of you is out there. There are a million versions of Adam and David Chen. To some stories, Adam and David Chen are the nicest, greatest people in the world. To some people, we're the biggest crooks. To some people, we're the bad guys. To some people, we're the good guys. But that's the versions. All that matters is how you treat people as a whole and the sum of averages. That means the averages of people. If 7 out of 10 people like you, bro, you're cool. Not everyone's going to like you. And this is not a popularity contest. At the end of the day, when we're all gone, if we're old, there's only a couple people around us, and that's going to be family because our friends will be too old to travel. Think about what I just said. So it doesn't matter. And it's hard. It doesn't, and the fact that people like you and I actually think about these relationships and how they perish, that is a great thing. And I'll tell you why. That is a leadership skill, in my opinion, because you don't want to learn how to make that mistake again. You don't want to lose that friend again. You don't want to give yourself up and have them take that from you because you're giving percentages of your soul, your heart to people, and they have to be very careful with it. Business, life, men, women, friends, it doesn't matter. They have to be careful with it. And they chose not to. So for me, it's hard, but I have to move on because they've already moved on. They don't care. They're not crying for you. They don't see you crying. They don't see you struggling. They don't see all the good you're doing, but it's not for them to see. It's for you to see.
Wow.
You know, I'm going to say this last thing. One time I was sitting there and I was giving away $1 to someone who was economically unfortunate. And my friend looks over at me and he goes, yo, you know what he's going to do with that, right? I go, no, they use it. He goes, you're going to do it for drugs. Why would you give him $1? And I get this lecture. And I look over at my friend. I said, listen, dude, you're looking at the wrong perspective. Between me and whatever you believe, I was trying to help someone. And between whatever he believes, that's between him and that whatever he believes. But between me and whatever I believe, my intentions were good. So why worry about it? Why judge it? And when he heard that, he looked at me and goes, yeah, the responsibility is on him. But I take that same thing, whether it's my relationship with my father, which I'm very open about in my first podcast, of how bad our relationship was and how much we've repaired it and how much I love my father now. And we still have we still get in arguments. I mean, it happens, but I love my father and I was able to forgive him. Sometimes people just don't know better. And if they want to learn, it's up to you to teach them. And if they don't want to learn and they can't break the cycle, it's not your job to teach them. And you move on. There's 6 billion people in this world. What the hell are we worried about?
Well, as I've kind of grown on this brand journey, and like it's weird. Like I remember the first time I got recognized in public, and I wasn't in my hometown, and that was totally weird.
Yeah.
And like people want to take pictures, and it's not like I'm like I said, that's even weird for me to say that out in public. And I'm like, okay. People are just fans of the brand, and I'm a big recognizable guy with a big recognizable voice, and they're like, oh, it's Adam. But one of the things that's really helped me is like a lot of my friends have introduced like stoicism and a lot of Ryan Holiday's books and things like that. Just the idea of controlling what we can control and not worrying. Like the hardest thing or the most impossible thing to change is another human being. So they think what they think. It's really hard to change what they think. We can communicate effectively, and we can control ourselves and how we're showing up in the world. Right. That's it, like you said, and that's what we worry about. So
I love that. Your friend, that should be our circle of friends because it's true. I mean, if we can control anything, we would all be billionaires, all healthy, and all our friends and family would have made it.
Yep.
So that's why I know nobody can control anything besides ourselves and situations that hit us.
Yep. Well, David, obviously you're blowing it up with Pandanomics, and it's a really fun, well done show.
Thank you.
I know
I
we've
have a
got
great team, man. Thank you very much.
Well, I know we've got some listeners that are just getting started, and like they're starting with 0 followers, 0 listeners, no brand. I'd like to drop, just as we wrap things up here, a little bit of just some beginner level tips on not just podcasting, but brand building. Like what are like 2 or 3 things that you would give them as focus points if they're just getting started in this day and age and they want to have an impactful brand?
What is your intentions, your objective of this brand? That's a very important thing to ask yourself. I'll tell you why that leads to question number 2. Is this everything in life is ego-based and ego-driven? So you come into this podcast and you are unhappy because you don't have the likes and the shares and the views. What makes you so special to have that? You're not Kim Kardashian. Shit, Kai Green just started his podcast. He's a buddy of mine, and he doesn't have necessarily more listeners than I do. And that's Kai Green. He's got 7 million followers on social media. You have to be very realistic with yourself. Ego is not your amigo. Ego is a real reason that we've made every bad decision our whole entire lives. When you hear the story about people buy stuff for people they don't care about to impress them, that is true, but not as deep as I'm gonna go, which is you buy this car, the car that you wanted when you were a kid, you finally get it, and all of a sudden it's not good enough because Dan bought the Aventador. And then you're trying to get the Aventador, but Nick owns a helicopter, and Nick doesn't have it. Sparky owns the Bugatti, and your friend Matt owns 2 jets, which, by the way, these are all real people in my life. You're never going to compete with these guys. So how do you do it? What is your impact? If your true impact is helping people, and you have 1 listener, you helped 1 person. Congratulations, you made the world a better place. Because that 1 person might tell 10, but out of that 10 in his network, that 1 person might tell 100,000 people. You got to stop looking at it. I am guilty of it too. How many views would I like? I got to be honest with you. It just doesn't matter. If a brand doesn't see my value and my authenticity and how I really care about my people, if they want to go some schmo who has more followers than me, then do it. That's what you deserve. But at least people know if I'm putting something up, I have to believe it and use it, or else I won't even touch it, right? That's what it is. Ego cannot be your amigo. Ego cannot be the defining thing in your life. Ego cannot be the reason that you don't want to talk to your dad or or not break up with the person you want to be with because your ego matters. Ego doesn't win when you're with a business partner for 10 years and all of a sudden you guys can't talk about things and then you guys break up because of that. That is just being silly. That is being childish. Ego is not your amigo. Ego is the biggest problem. So if you're trying to do a podcast, don't let your ego get in the way, because once it doesn't, then you start doing what you're doing, then likes and brands and things will come in. It's just being good to people. Our journey, Adam, I'll say this real quick. I met you through Brian. I met Brian through Meltzer. I met Meltzer through Mamula. I met Mamula through Joseph. And I met Joseph, I can't remember who I met him through. But it took all these good people in my lives for me to meet you. That was 8 people in the last 2 years. But if I did anybody wrong, I would have never met you.
Yeah.
Right? That's the extension of our lives, is just try to do the best that you can, man. And don't let your ego get in the way. And it's hard. Ego is not the same thing as having confidence and loving yourself. That's not an ego. The fact that you have to ask if that is the case, that is your ego. Right? Like you and I know why we're doing this. It's good intentions. That's it. Right? We want to make money. We want to help people in the world, but it's really just good intentions. That's why your energy, my energy, Brian's energy, our friend's energy, even though I've never physically met you, we're on the same wavelength. Yeah. And certain guests are like that too, where others aren't. Don't let ego get in your way and you'll be fine. You know, and I want to say this one last thing. You know, we're out of time. I always tell people this, like, dude, we're survivors. You've survived 100% of your worst days. Now, take a second when I just said that. Think about what I really just said. Every heartbreak you ever had, you survived it. Every failure, you survived it. Every death, you survived it. Every hard shit that the whole world has thrown at you, you have ducked, dodged, survived, and you're still here listening to this podcast. We are the 1% of the world. The whole world's knowledge is in your phone. Why do you not want to be better? You deserve it because you're a survivor. And that would be my advice for everyone there.
David Chen, yo.
Thank you.
I thought you were going to hop out of that chair and you're going to reach to my screen and we're going to like headbutt
Hug.
and
We're gonna
slap
hug.
each other around like pregame football, man.
Eventually.
So, dude, obviously you've got a lot of stuff going on. If people, so listeners right now, make sure you guys check out Pandanomics. Just go. I recommend the Brian Urlacher interview. That's one of my favorite episodes for sure. So go and check that out for sure. But just get the latest episode and start binging. It's very bingeable.
Thank you very much.
So definitely go check that out. Where else can they dive into your world, man?
David Chen Panda on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Twitch. I mean, I stream twice a week. I play video games. I talk about life. Hit me with anything. I am one of those guys that will eventually get back to you. I will definitely talk to you. I will definitely try to my best to help improve your world. I don't have all the answers, but I do have enough experiences to make sure you don't do the bad stuff that I've done. So it works out in the end. And thank you for having me on the show, man. I'm super excited for what we're going to be doing and the things I've already learned from your podcasting business school. So it's been pretty dope.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. You're somebody that obviously you could be a lot of places right now. And there's a lot of people you could be talking to. And I'm just super proud to be one of your new pod pals. And maybe when you're listening, like Sparky has 2 helicopters and JoJo has 5 jets, and my bro Adam drives a 2013 Nissan Leaf all electric. So
he's up in the world, man.
it'll be that's just next in line after the jets. It's a natural fit. But no, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate your time invested in my audience here today. And for everybody listening in, we gave you a lot of fire, a lot of things to think about, some definite podcasting inspiration. So chew on that. Remember that if you're inspired by something, think about implementation. How are we going to implement this and improve what we're thinking about? So, David, I appreciate you. Everybody listening in, thank you for supporting the show so much. And as always, I'm going to send you out into the world, wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. We'll see you